Hello guys, I am Parinita Hajra and I welcome all of you to Online Study for You. In today's video, we are going to see about most commonly asked questions in interview that are related with C language or C programming. So many times it happens that we are quite sure about these common subjects that yes, I know about C language and I will easily handle that. But what happens that in interview, whenever suddenly the question pops up before us, we often get confused. So though we know the subjects or the languages, but still it is important to see that what are the most commonly asked questions on that topic for the interviews. So what happens is you will get a clear idea to answer the sudden questions as well as your confidence is boosted. So in this video we are going to see the most commonly asked C language questions for interviews, and we will see that if any such question pops up in front of you, then how you can answer them to the point and you can give them an impressive, short and simple and impressive answer. Fine. So let's see. So the very first question can be, what are the key features in C programming languages? So key features means what are some of the basic characteristics or important characteristics of C language or C programming language. So which are the key features that you can point out? Memory management. C language is very faster. Memory management means the management of memory in C language is done very properly. It is its inbuilt function. We don't need to do that. Then C programming language is very fast compared to many other programming languages. In C programming languages, we are having something known as pointers, and we can use pointers easily or very efficiently to implement important data structures like linked list, tree, graph, etc. Whereas this pointer is not that conveniently available in other programming languages. But yes, we are having pointers in C language, with the help of which, as I stated, we can implement many important data structures. Fine, so pointers, we can say that they are one of the key features of C language. Then we are having recursion. You all must be knowing what is recursion, a function calling itself. So this is also a very important feature or technique whenever we want to implement many important like coding, many important programs like how to find out the factorial or any such programs. There are many such programs or many such problems for whose solution we need to implement recursion functions. So recursion is again one of the key features of C programming languages. And then we can say that one of the other key feature is C language is what? High level language. So what do we mean by high level language? See, these are just the common points. You need to remember the points. And what happens in interview that as soon as you will state these 6 or 8 points, then out of these points, again the questions may be raised to you. So whatever you utter in interview or whatever points you are saying, you must be knowing those points in detail. Fine. That's why I'm explaining you each and every point. So what do we mean by high level language? Why we can say that our C programming language is high level language? So whenever in any programming language, we are writing the code in normal English language that is understandable by us, and then internally that language or that high level language or the source code is converted into the binary language that can be understood by the machine. So this thing is happening in C programming language, so we can say that it is high level language. So high level language means we are writing the code in English language that is understandable to us, and then internally it is converted into low level language that actually the system or the computer can understand. Then we can say that C programming language is a structured language because there is a definite structure in which we can write our code. C programming language is having rich libraries. Various inbuilt libraries are available that we can use in C language, and we can say that it is extensible. So what do we mean by extensible language? So C language is one of the extensible languages because in that we can extend our program up to much extent based on our requirement. So it can be extended much, and so we can say that C language is extensible language. So see, these are some of the key features that you can answer whenever you are asked about the key features or characteristics of C programming languages. Fine. Now let's see the next question. What are the basic data types associated with C? So the basic data types or the most important data types of C language, we can say that these 5. That is int. Int is used for integer language. Int is used to denote integers. Integers means numbers. Float is used to denote the floating point values. Floating point values means the number with a fraction point, the number with a fraction part, or you can say that the decimal values. So we are having float data type for that. Then we are having double. Double is used for double precision floating point values. So they are also used for the decimal values, but we can say that double is used for double precision floating point values. And then we are having char. It is basically used for a single character. Single character means A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, or any particular character. And in this, what happens that even if you type 1 as a value, it will not take 1 as a number, it will take it as a character. That means basically what happens, if I tell you an idea, that if you are writing character C is equal to, in single quotes, whenever we are writing character, we have to write that value inside single quotes. So if you are writing something like character C is equal to, in single quotes you are writing C. In single quotes, for example, you are writing 1. So that 1 will not be assigned as a digit 1, but what will happen that actually the ASCII value of that 1 will be assigned to the variable. Fine. So this is how the things takes place. So however, char is the basic is one of the basic data types that is used to store the single character value. Then we are having void. See, this is also one of the important data types that generally we forget to tell about. But what is void? Void is a special purpose type without any value. So void means what? You must be knowing that whenever we are writing public void main, or for example, we are writing void main, right? In C program. So what is void main? So in that case, what is void? Void is the data type or the return type of the function main. So void is also an important data type. So the basic data types of C are as stated here: int, float, double, character, and void. Fine. Okay. Now what is the difference between plus plus I and I plus plus? So as you can see, these are what? These are the operators to increment the value of any variable. And similar question can be asked for decrement, that is minus minus I or I minus minus. So how are they different? So is there any difference if we place this plus plus or minus minus before the variable and after the variable? So yes, they both are different. One is the post increment and the another one is pre increment. So let's see with the help of an example that how they are different. So whenever we are writing plus plus I, this means what? This is the prefixed increment, and the increment will happen first on the variable in this case. Now what is I plus plus? I plus plus is called the postfix increment, and the increment happens after the assignment of the value. Fine. So one is prefixed increment and I plus plus is what? Postfix increment. Now let's see with the help of example that how they are different. So if I am having any variable I and its value is 1, so I equal to 1. Now what I am doing is I am taking another integer variable j and I am writing j is equal to plus plus I. Now whenever I am writing j is equal to plus plus I, so plus plus I is what? It is my prefixed increment. So what will happen in case of prefixed increment? So first the increment will be done. Fine. The increment will be done first and then the value will be assigned to the variable present in LHS. So what will happen? First of all, plus plus I. So the value of I is incremented. The value of I is already 1. Now it will become 2. And then it will be assigned to j. So now what will happen? The new value of I and j both will be 2. Got it? Okay. Now in the second example, see what is done here. Here also we are having the value of I is 1 and we are doing j is equal to I plus plus. Now what is I plus plus? I plus plus is my postfix increment. So what happens in postfix increment is that first of all the value of I will be assigned to the variable in the left hand side and then the increment will take place. So first of all the value of I is 1. So this 1 will be assigned to j and then the value of I will be incremented by 1. So now I will become 1 plus 1 equal to 2. So here my ultimate value of I will become 2, but the value that will be assigned to j will be equal to 1. So got it? This is how these two are different and we can use them as per our requirement of the program. So this is again one of the important questions or like this is just the basic question, but in this way they can frame many such questions based on the increment and decrement operator. So you just need to have the uh, you just have to you just need to have the basic knowledge that we discussed here, and if you are having the clarity that how they are different from each other and how they actually work, in that case then you can solve any kind of example that is thrown to you, right? Now let's see the second question. What is the purpose of printf and scanf in C program? So these are very common functions that we are using, printf and scanf. So what are their use in C program? Printf is used to print the values on the screen. On the other hand, scanf is used to scan the values. Scan the values, what do we mean by scanning the values? So taking the input values from the user. So whenever I want to do some code like take the input from the user as a number and then the find whether the number is odd or even, find whether the number is prime or not. So in those cases, what we can do, we can take the input, take the user input from the console with the help of this scanf function, right? So printf is used to print the values on the screen, and on the other hand, scanf is used to scan the values. Now we need an appropriate data type format specifier for both printing and scanning the purposes. For both printing and scanning purposes, for printing or scanning any variable. So here see, format specifiers are again a very important, are playing a very important role. So whenever we are trying to print anything or we are wanting to scan any variable, so in those cases we have to specify the format specifier that which kind of value we want to print or which kind of value we want to scan. So what do I mean by which kind of value? So which type of value, that whether my value is integer or character or string, whatever my value is, whatever my type of the value is that I want to print or scan, I have to specify its format specifiers. So actually there are many format specifiers available in C, but out of them, to discuss the most important format specifiers, so these are the four most important format specifiers in C. The first one is %d, that is used to print or scan the integer values. Then %s, that is used to print and scan the string. %c, that is used to print or scan the character values, and %f, that is used to print or scan the float values. Similarly, we are having other format specifiers also, like %u is for printing or scanning the pointer values. Like that, there are many, but these are the important ones and you should be knowing them. Fine. Now, what are the limitations of scanf and how it can be avoided? So, we have seen in the previous question that what is the use of scanf? To scan the values or to scan or to take any user input values. Now, there are certain limitations of scanf. So, this is also one of the questions that is frequently asked, that what are the limitations of scanf and how they can be avoided. Fine. So, this can be stated as the main limitation of scanf is that it is not possible to enter a multi-word string into a single variable using scanf. So if scanf, for example, I want to give the user input as how are you. So what happens that after how, as soon as I'm giving the space bar, I'm giving the space, it will just take how as input. It will not take the whole how are you as input. So this is one of the biggest limitations of scanf, that we cannot enter multi-word string into a single variable using scanf. So that is a big limitation. Now how we can avoid that or how we can overcome that limitation? So we can overcome that limitation using gets function, G-E-T-S, using a parenthesis like you can see here. So gets function can replace the scanf function, and even the limitation that is present in the scanf function that is not present in gets function. So what happens that in the gets function we can take multi-word string input also. So gets function, what it is doing, it gets a string from the keyboard and it is terminated only when the enter key is pressed. Here the spaces and tabs are acceptable as a part of input string. Like in the scanf, as soon as I'm doing the space bar or as soon as I'm giving the tab bar, it is not taking that, it is not considering that, but it will just take the word before that. But in case of gets, gets function is accepting spaces and tab bar as a part of input. It will only terminate taking the input when I am entering the enter key. Fine. So these are the main differences between scanf and gets function. And you can say that the above limitation that was present in the scanf function, it is overcome with the help of gets function. Fine. Okay, now one of the general questions can be, what is an array? So we can say that array is a simple data structure that stores multiple elements of the same data type in a reserved and sequential manner. There are three types of arrays, namely one-dimensional, two-dimensional, like you can say 1D, 2D array, or multi-dimensional array. So simple array is a simple data structure that can store multiple elements of the same data type in a reserved and sequential manner. So whenever I want to store multiple values or sequence of values of the same data type, I can use array. And one more advantage of array is that it stores all the values in a sequence. So whenever I want to retrieve my sequence of values, I can simply retrieve them with the help of index, like array of 0, array of 1, array of 2. So I can store them in a sequence and I can again retrieve the values in a sequence. So that is important. And one dimensional array, two dimensional array, multi-dimensional array, as you know, one dimensional is for, like, whenever I want to simply store the multiple values in a single dimension. But if I want to store the values in two dimensional, like in row and column kind of thing, I can use two dimensional, or I can, if I want 3, 4, 5 dimensional arrays, I can use multi-dimensional. Fine. So these are different, and they can also ask you about the applications of them. So simply you can state the application, for example, if I just want to store the name of students of a class, if I just want to store, if for example, in a class 50 students are there. Now if I want to store only the students, I can use one dimensional array, and I can take one dimensional array of size 50, and I can store the name of 50 students there. But if I want to store all the students along with their exam marks, fine. So if I want to do something like that, I cannot do that in one dimensional array. So I can take two dimensional array. One dimension will be for the name of the students, and the other dimension can be for the marks of the students. So in this way, they can ask you, like, first of all, they can ask you this question. Once you answer this question, they can go deep down and they can again ask another example like that give me one real-time examples. So kind of, this is just to give you an idea that whatever questions we are discussing here, these are some of the important questions, but then again, they can add or remove something from this question and they can modify a bit. But the more important thing is that you should have an idea. You should have a clarity that what this topic is about. Then whatever the interviewer will ask, you can easily be able to answer that, right? Okay. So the next question is, what is the main difference between compiler and interpreter? Again, this is one of the common questions. So you can answer it like, compiler, that is used in C language. Mostly in C language, we are using compilers. So what the compilers mostly do, it translates the complete code into the machine code in one shot. So that is the specialty of compiler. But what happens in interpreter? Interpreter is mostly used in Java programming language or other high-end programming languages. And what happens in interpreter? That interpreter is designed to compile the code line by line fashion. So in compiler, what happens? It compiles the whole code at once, and whatever error you are having in the whole code, they are displayed together. Like in C program, you must have seen that as soon as you are running the program, compiling the program, it will show you together that 12 errors are there, 14 errors are there, like that. Fine. So compiler, what it is doing, it is translating the whole code into the machine code at once, and so it will show all the errors together. But what happens in interpreter? In interpreter, it is interpreting your code line by line. So what happens in case of interpreters, that whenever they are detecting any error in any of your line, it will stop detecting the further code. It will just stop there and it will give you that error. So this is the main difference between compiler and interpreter. Fine. When should we use pointers in a C program? So yes, what are pointers or what are the use of pointers? This is an important question. So you can answer it in simple way, in simple words. You can answer that pointers are used for what? They are used to get the address of any variable. Fine. So they are used to get the address of any variable. For achieving pass by reference in C, Pointers allow different functions to share and modify their local variables. It is also used to pass large data structures so that complete copy of that structure can be avoided. Also, it is used to implement linked list data structure using linked list and binary trees. So as I've told, these 2 points I guess will be enough. The very first point is that pointers are used to get address of any variable, and second is that pointers are used to implement the important data structures like linked list, trees, graphs, etc. Fine. So pointers are really important. So basically what are pointers? They will be storing the address of any variable. You can make them understand with the help of an example, like if I am taking int I equal to 10. So this 10 is actually the value of I that will be stored in this variable I. Fine. But 10 is the value of the variable. But there will be a location where this I will actually be stored, and that location of I is known as the address of I, and that address of the variable I can again be accessed with the help of some other variable that will be my pointer variable. So this is somehow you can explain them that what pointers are actually, that they are helping us to get the address of the actual variable. Fine. Now, after asking what are pointers, these are the two main questions or important questions that are being asked, that what are null pointers and what are dangling pointers. Because many dangling pointers or dangling pointers, whatever you want to call it, because actually many students are having confusion among these two, that what are dangling pointers and what are null pointers. So first of all, talking about null pointers, null is used to indicate that the pointer doesn't point to a valid location. See, understand the difference. It is actually very easy. Don't get confused. So what is null pointer? Null pointer is used to indicate that the pointer does not point to a valid location. Fine. Null means nothing. It is not pointing to anywhere. So null is used to indicate that the pointer does not point to a valid location. Ideally, we should initialize the pointers as null if we don't know their value at the time of declaration. Also, we should make a pointer null when the memory pointed by it is deallocated in the middle of the program. So got it? What is null? That the pointer is not pointing to any valid location. That means it is a null pointer. But if we talk about dangling pointers, so what are they? Dangling pointers is a pointer that doesn't point to a valid memory location. Dangling pointers arise when an object is deleted or deallocated without modifying the value of the pointer, so that the pointer still points to the memory location of the deallocated memory. Got the difference? So in dangling pointer, what happens? That pointer is pointing to a memory location, but now what happens that in that memory location the object is already deleted or deallocated. Fine, that initially some value was there, but currently what happened that the object is deleted or delocated, but our pointer is still pointing to that position. So in that case we can say that that pointer is dangling pointer. Fine, so this is the basic difference. Now they may ask you the difference between calloc and malloc. So you must be aware about these functions. These functions are used to what? They are used for allocating dynamic memory locations. Fine. So they both are used for dynamic memory allocation, but still there is a difference between them. So let's see what is the difference between them. So first of all, malloc. The name malloc stands for memory allocation and the name calloc stands for contiguous allocation. So this is the basic difference, that is the full form of them. Malloc stands for memory allocation and calloc stands for contiguous allocation. Fine. Now, malloc takes one argument, that is number of bytes, and calloc takes two arguments, that is number of blocks and size of each block. So this is the again main difference between these two, that malloc, that how they are declared. So see, you can see the syntax of malloc and calloc here, that in malloc we are passing only one parameter, that is void star malloc, and inside we are just passing size and n. What happens in calloc? In calloc we are having void star calloc and we are passing two parameters. One will be the number of blocks that we want to allocate, and the another will be the size of the block, size of each block. Fine. So they may ask you to write down the syntax of malloc and calloc, and you must know that what are these parameters and how they are different. So in malloc we will be having only one parameter, and that one parameter or one argument will be the number of bytes, that how many number of bytes you actually want, like in your dynamic allocation. Fine. So that much number of bytes will be allocated to you dynamically. But in case of calloc, what happens that you have to pass two arguments, that is what are the number of blocks that you want and what should be the size of each block. So what will happen that those many number of blocks will be allocated or will be assigned to you dynamically, and those blocks will be uh, continuous, means that's why it is known as contiguous allocation. So you will get continuous blocks of that much size each, whatever you will mention here. Fine. So these are some of the points that shows the difference between calloc and malloc, but basically they both are used for dynamic memory allocation. And then we are having that why is C called the mother of all languages? So yes, this is not that technical question, but it can be asked because C is known as the we can say that C is the basic of all other programming languages, or we can say that C is the mother of all programming languages. So you must be knowing that whenever any fresher or whenever any new programmer starts, like he or she wants to learn programming, so they are always suggested to learn the C language first, because what happens that C is the base of all the languages. So here it is asked that why C is called the base of all languages or mother of all languages. So it can be answered like C introduced many core concepts and data structures like arrays, lists, functions, strings, etc. So these are the data structures or the concepts that were very first introduced by C. So arrays, lists, functions, strings, etc. These data structures were in the very first time they were introduced by C. So many languages designed after C are designed on the basis of the C language. So we can say that it is considered as the mother of all languages. How is a function declared in C language? So it is very simple. You can, if they are giving you pen and paper, you can write down this basic format of declaring the function. That is, first of all, return type will be there, that which type of value will be returned by the function. So return type, then function name, then in the bracket we will be having formal parameter list, and inside we will be having function body. They may ask you, after writing this, they may ask you that what are parameters, what can be your function name. So the answer will be function name can be anything. What can be your return type? So return type is nothing but which type of value is written by the function. So it can be either void. If it is not returning anything, it will be void. Otherwise, it can be integer, character, whatever it can be. Inside function body, the length of the function body can be anything. It might be only one line. It can be 10 lines, 20 lines. So it depends on our function. Fine. So these are basic function declaration can be asked, and once you tell that, again they can break down the question and they can ask you about each of them. Fine. So if you are clear about your concept, you can easily answer them. And then yes, this is the last question we are having, that write a code to print the following pattern. So I've kept this question as the last question because this is just one of the examples that I've shown you. But like this, they are in many interviews they are asking about these different patterns. Like we are having 1 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4, like this pattern here. They may ask you 1 2 2 3 3 3 4 4 4 4 5 5 5 5 5, like that also. They may ask you different patterns to print star. You must be aware about it. Star, then 2 stars, then 4 stars, like that. So like printing the pattern is one of the common questions that are being asked in the C language. So this is the code for this pattern, but similarly, just I want you to practice some examples of this printing the patterns, because this is one of the common question, because this is not taking much time, and by such questions they are actually looking at your logic, that how quickly you are able to develop the logic correctly. Fine. So they may ask you to print different patterns like this. And apart from these, they can also give you pen and paper to write algorithm, like algorithm for different searching, sorting. They may ask you different sorts. Fine. So these are some of the basic questions that can be asked in C language. So yes, these are not the only questions, but yes, these are some of the important questions that you should be mentally prepared about, because they are asked repeatedly. So that was just my try to give you an overall idea. So I hope this video will be helpful to you, and all the best for your upcoming interviews. Thank you so much.